welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Sam Menzie. We have a great show for you today. First topic we'll be covering is some teams that got swept over the opening weekend, how much did their fan base worry, and what are some ways they can avoid getting swept in the future and just be better overall into the season. After that, we'll be talking about some teams who swept these teams, the undefeated teams going into the week, and what my thoughts are on them and if I believe in them. After that, we'll be talking about Roki Sasaki being scouted by MLB teams, and then ending off with some general news around the league. Now, before we do that, I would like to ask you to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read in the air, please use the link gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get into our first segment of today, which is going to be talking about some teams that did get swept over the opening day weekend. How worried am I about them? And overall, should their fan base worry a lot? So yeah, we'll be talking about that. Now, before we get into the segment, I would like to say that Shota Imanaga of the Chicago Cubs is currently throwing a perfect game. So I know I shouldn't really jinx it, but I don't really believe in that kind of stuff. So as we got updates on that, I will be updating you throughout the stream, and maybe we'll be able to see a perfect game on stream. That would be pretty cool, but it's only through 5. But it is against the Rockies, who, as we know, aren't very good. So I will be letting you know about that. All right, but let's first talk about the teams that got swept over the weekend, and just personally, how worried am I about them? How worried would I be if I'm a fan? And how can they improve? Just stuff like that, and overall just why they got swept. So first, we're going to start off with one of the big surprises over the weekend, which was the New York Mets. Now, the Mets getting swept was a big surprise in my opinion. Not because they're an amazing team who is going to make the playoffs, but because they're not a horrible team, and they were playing, in my opinion, a team that is not as good as them in the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, the Mets lost by 1 run in one of the games, but after that did not do very well. So, just what is my overall concern level with the Mets going into the week now, playing a game tonight against the opening series against the Tigers tonight, and just how worried am I about them? I wouldn't be excited if I was a Mets fan, which I am, but I'm not also entirely worried. Now, going over these first few games, first of all, you had Jose Quintana as your opening day starter. Now, no disrespect to Jose Quintana, he's just not an opening day starter material. He's a very good pitcher. I'm happy he's my team's number 2, but he's not a guy that you would feel very comfortable with being your ace for the whole season. Thankfully, he's not, as our ace Kodai Senga is hurt. So I don't think Quintana is going to be the guy we rely on for games like this for the rest of the season. So Quintana did not do very well, did not even go 5 innings, but I'm not too worried about his performance. He's an older guy, and it kind of seemed like he was overthrowing in his first start, just happy to be out there, happy to start opening day. So I wouldn't be that worried if I was a Mets fan about Quintana, and that's kind of one of the reasons I'm not worried about the Mets team, because I think there's still a lot of ways to improve. I think with Quintana, again, it's one start, it's opening day. He was probably very excited, very pumped up, and didn't do great, but didn't do horrible as well. So I wouldn't be too worried if I was him. And then after that, you had, first of all, Luis Severino, who, he did not do very well. He gave up 6 earned runs, 12 hits. So he was not good whatsoever. But I'm not worried about him personally. Now, I've said multiple times here, I love the signing for the Mets. I thought Severino's a very good buy low candidate, a guy you can get for cheap on a 1-year deal. It wasn't really cheap because it was $13 million, but I think for where we thought Severino might get a few years ago when he was at the top of his game, that is pretty cheap, and it is a 1-year deal as well. So I think it was a good deal by the Mets still, and one start isn't going to totally change my belief on that. Was he bad? Yes. He gave up 12 hits. That's not good. I'm not trying to say anywhere at all is that good. But at the same time, his pitches were working well, and Zach Short made a kind of an error quickly in the first inning. Sorry about that noise. I'll be fixing that right there. Sorry about that. Keeping going with that, I think Severino did get a little unlucky, and because of that, I wouldn't look at that start as the end-all, be-all for him. Was it bad? Yes. But again, I think his pitches were working well. I think he got a little unlucky with how the Brewers were hitting things, with the Zach Short error in the first inning as well. So, yeah, just not something to totally worry about, in my opinion, with Severino. And then after that, starting, you had Tyler McGill, who, in my opinion, is just not a major league caliber pitcher. I don't know why the Mets keep bringing him out. He has not developed in all these years he's been in the major league, so not a fan of him. So, yes, you could say, okay, well, you're just listing off pitchers on your team that are going to be starting a lot of innings. Why would we not be worried? because, first of all, Severino is first start after being statistically the worst pitcher in baseball last year. So I'm not going to take that with like a big deal, and like take that as a huge, huge piece of his season. I'm not going to really make that a whole thing. And Quintana is older, and his starting opening day is probably a little excited, so I'm not too worried. McGill was just placed on the injured list as well. We talk about that a little bit later, so I'm not really entirely worried about him being a fixture in the rotation. So, yeah, and then with the offense did pretty well. I mean, they scored 6 runs in the second game. Third game was a little rough, but I think overall they showed a lot of flashes, and I don't really want to make any big statements about the Mets offense until a few things happen. Until one, Carlos Mendoza figures out what he's doing with the lineup. He's been playing around with it a lot. I think we've had 4 different lineup combinations at 4 games now, with the lineup being announced tonight. And so I think he's trying to find his way with the Mets organization, trying to find his way of, okay, how is this lineup going to be set? How am I going to play these players? So I think that's another thing. And after that, also, we don't have JD Martinez. I think JD Martinez would probably be our second or third best hitter right now on this team. And the fact is, we're not going to have him for a few more days. He's starting in AAA Syracuse to make sure he doesn't get hurt, kind of rehab the right way from last season, as he didn't get spring training at all with the team. Signing with them, it's very late. So I'm not really putting too much stock into this Mets lineup until he gets there, until Mendoza figures out what he's doing. So am I worried? Yes, I am worried. Sorry if you hear that in the background. I don't know what my cats are doing, but if you hear that, so I'm not worried about the Mets entirely because of these things I mentioned, and it relies on JD Martinez. And the Brewers, while I didn't think they would be a great team, I might have to reconsider that. I thought they were very impressive. We're going to talk about it more going into the second segment, but I think they played defense very well. I think they run the bases very well, and I think that's a reflection of what David Stearns is going to try to do with his Mets team now. He built this Brewers team, so I think you see that. You see the pieces of what he wants to become with the Mets, and I think you saw that now, adding a guy like Harrison Bader in the offseason, who isn't the best hitter, but he runs the bases very well. He plays great defense. So I think that's kind of a David Stearns Mets era type player. And I think seeing the Brewers and how they played was a reflection of what he wants to build with the Mets right now. So that is my general thoughts on that. And so would I be worried about the Mets? Not entirely, but I'd also be a little cautious about them. So yeah, I'm not going to say that their season's over, but obviously not an ideal start getting swept in your home ballpark as well. So those are my just general thoughts on it. After that, we got the Marlins. They also got swept. They got swept by the Pirates for somehow. I would be worried about the Marlins simply because I didn't think they were a great team to start off with as well. I'm just not a fan of their team whatsoever. I don't think their offense is that good. I think their pitching staff's a little overrated now with the pitching injuries they've had. I just don't think it's as good as people believe. Their bullpen is just not good, and they went into extra innings a few times during the series, and I think we're seeing one of the big reasons why they lost these games after even coming back and scoring a lot of runs is just they don't have the pitching depth right now. And I think with the additions the Pirates made in the offseason, with guys like Aroldis Chapman, already having guys like Colin Holderman there, David Bednar, I think that the Pirates just simply had more depth than the Marlins going into these late games. So I would be worried if I'm a Marlins fan, not because of this series, simply because I just don't think this team is very good. So that's kind of just it. I don't really want to spend too much time on them because, again, they're not a competitive team in my opinion, and I don't think they're going to be good anyway, so it's really not that surprising they got swept. I think it's surprising the team they got swept by, who we'll be talking about next segment, but yeah, overall, I just don't think the Marlins are a good team anyways. So after that, we got the White Sox. Again, a team I don't really want to spend too much time on because they're in the same boat as the Marlins. I don't think they're very good, and I didn't think they were very good to start out the season anyways. So yeah, not a big fan of this White Sox team. I don't think anyone is. They don't have that many good players. They're just simply not a good team. So that's just really it, in my opinion. I don't really know what else to say about them. It's not really me saying anything too shocking here. I just don't think the Pirates are that good. And I just don't think that... I don't think the White Sox are that good. Not the Pirates. We talked about the Pirates before. It's the White Sox. I don't think the White Sox are that good. I don't think they're really showing anything with this series. And not really a big surprise. They played a good team, and they got swept. So, yeah, not really too much to watch upon for the White Sox. guys I will watch for the season is Eric Fetty, Mike Soroka, two guys I think have a lot of potential in this White Sox organization, and guys I think could be good buy low people. So, yeah, I think both Fetty and Soroka, those are guys I'm watching. So we'll be seeing with that. Fetty did have a surge start with the White Sox. Wasn't great. Went 4 2/3. Gave up 2 earned runs. Only 5 hits, though. So we'll just see how he performs overall with the season. And for Mike Soroka, he also made his debut with the White Sox. So how he did, I'll let you know. He did not do great. We started one game, obviously, went 5 innings, gave up 4 earned runs, a home run, 3 walks, 7 hits. So not really what you want from his White Sox debut. Same with Fetty, but I still think both these guys could be really interesting players to watch. And on a White Sox team that doesn't really have much to watch or much to look at, I think these two players something kind of hope, not really hope, but like just players that are interesting in my opinion. So, I mean, yeah, already the White Sox had good players. Of course, Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, another guy. So, yeah, there are some pieces on this White Sox team, but they're clearly in a rebuild, and they're not very good this year. And I don't know if they will be for a little while. So, not too much to say about them or the Marlins. Both aren't that amazing of teams. Finally, the most surprising team we have is the Houston Astros. Now, very surprisingly, the Astros got swept in a 3-game series by the Yankees in their opening ballpark. The Astros have not won a playoff game in their home ballpark since I think it was the ALDS of last year, which is crazy. So, yeah, am I worried about the Astros? Yes and no. I think it's kind of in the same boat as the Mets. Obviously, this is not how you want to start the season, especially being a team like the Astros, a team that is so good, has been so good for so long, is considered a dynasty. And I don't think this year is any deterrent on that. I don't think they lost so many huge big pieces that are going to make them a bad team. So, yeah, I'm not worried about the Astros entirely, but there are some things to be a little worried about if I was a fan. First of all, the bullpen. Now, they added Josh Hader, which is a huge get, so I don't want to really undermine that. I think that's an amazing piece, and I think overall that is someone you should be very excited about. I think it was overall still a great signing. I'm not changing my belief after 3 games, but you look at what the price of losing Josh Hader was. First of all, you lost 100 innings of your bullpen in the offseason. You lost Ryan Stanek to the division rival Mariners. You lost Phil Maton to the Rays. Those are 2 guys you relied on very heavily to be middle relief, guys who would come in for 1 or 2 innings and pitch very well. That's, again, over 100 innings of relief that you're missing. Yes, you're fitting that in with Josh Hader. He's covering a lot of that, but Hader is really only a closer that goes 1 inning. So that's kind of it. You don't really know how many innings he's going to pitch, maybe 40 or 50 the entire year, and even 50 might be stretching it. So you lost a lot of depth in that bullpen. You also lost Kendall Graveman to start the season with injuries. So there are some things to look out for if you're an Astros fan. I think the bullpen is one. And because of losing these guys, you have to rely on middle relief guys like Taylor Scott, who you just called up, who's kind of a AAA nobody who you're having pitching significant innings for you. So I'm not too worried about the Astros because I still think they're a great team. The amount of pure talent they have is just incredible. But there are some question marks that you currently have to look out for if you are a fan of them, mainly the bullpen. So that's really what I'd be watching as the season goes on and just what happens with that. So, yeah, overall, those are my thoughts on the Astros and just teams that got swept. How worried you should be on them, and why they got swept overall, just what the issues were. So, yeah, we'll be talking about this, but the other side of it, teams that did the sweeping, which we'll be doing in segment 2, talking about those teams, the teams that are currently undefeated in the baseball right now. So, yeah, we'll be talking about that, and we'll see you after the break. So, thank you, and see you then. Bye.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose. lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We'll be going to our segment 2 here, but before we do that, I would like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read on the air, please use the link gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. All right, we'll be going to our second segment here, which is talking about the undefeated teams after opening weekend. What are my overall thoughts on them, and am I higher on them than I was at the start of the season now that they are undefeated? Just a quick update before we do go into that. Shota Imanaga did give up the perfect game he had with the Cubs. Charlie Blackmon hit a single, which ended it. So, yeah, it was a fun story, but I didn't think it was really ever going to happen. Perfect games are so hard to do. I don't know how Domingo Germán got one last year. That was insane and so random. So, yeah, we'll be talking about, of course, anything that happens like that over the course of the show and over the years. So, be prepared for that. But, yeah. So, we're going to be talking about undefeated teams after opening weekend, and overall, just what are my general thoughts on them? Am I higher on them than I was at the start of the season because they are undefeated now? I think that's a question you have to ask, so let's get into it. First are the Pirates. Now, the Pirates played the Marlins and swept the Marlins. They went to extra innings a few times over the course of the series, so that was something that was interesting and showed what one of the Pirates' strength is right now, and that is the bullpen. With the addition of Aroldis Chapman, with the players you already have there, like David Bednar, like Colin Holderman, I think the Pirates, really one of their main strong suits is their bullpen, and I think showing off your depth already in these games was very important, and it showed teams, okay, you know what, we're this good, and this is what our strong suits are, and this is what we can do. I mean, you're looking at these scores right now, sorry, hold on. Excuse me. Okay, so with these scores, I mean, and with them going into extra innings, you were very, very good. You showed off your strong suits, and you showed off what you can do as a team. I mean, they won 6-5, 7-2, 9-3, 9-7. So in the first game, they went to 12 innings. After that, I mean, they went to 9 innings, but went 7-2, scored earlier in the games. After that, in the third game, they won 9-3. Like, you're really blowing these teams out, and you're showing the pitching depth you have. And in the last game, they went to 10 innings. So 2 out of the 4 games of the series, they went to extra innings. And I think that is something that really shows what the Pirates can do. It shows that they have a lot of pitching depth this year. Maybe not really in the starting rotation, but after that. So I'm not exactly higher on the Pirates than I was before because, just simply put, I'm not a fan of that rotation. Jared Jones had a really nice debut. Mitch Keller, always good. But you're having Bailey Falter, Marco Gonzalez, and Martin Perez throw significant innings for your team this year. That's not a recipe for success. I'm sorry. There were so many good starting pitchers on this free agent market that you could have signed, and you just didn't. Instead, you went for bargain bin people like Martin Perez, like a Marco Gonzalez. And because of that, I'm just not sure how they're going to compete this year when that's your rotation. Bailey Falter even. Like, how is Bailey Falter in your rotation if you're trying to compete? I think the Pirates have a very good bullpen. I think they have a very good lineup. I think both those are big strong suits for this Pirates team. But if I'm going to look at them as a significant contender, as a team that can perform very well this season, I'm just not. I need them to improve in that area. Michael Lorenzen was out there, $4.5 million. You couldn't have swooped him up for like $6 million. Clevenger's still out there. I know he has some character issues, but even getting him for $5 million or something like that, I don't see what the problem is. That's better than Martin Perez and Mark Gonzalez. To me, if the Pirates want to be competitive and want to show people that they're for real and that they're not the Pirates of old, quote unquote, they're not this horrible team that's run by incompetent people, I think getting pitching additions would be a start. I love that they called up Jared Jones. I love that they extended Mitch Keller. It shows me they're serious about their future and their pitching. But at the same time, you need to do more. And if you're going to compete in a division where you have the Reds, you have the Cubs, you have the Brewers now who surprised everyone by sweeping the Mets, I think you need more. You also have the Cardinals who, of course, have an insane hitting core. I think you need to do more with this pitching staff specifically. I like all the other aspects of your team. I do. Again, I think the bullpen's really nice. I think that back end is very, very good. I think the lineup has a lot of great pieces, even with the injuries you've had. But I need more from that starting rotation. I need them to add more. And that's the only way I'm looking at them as a true contender. Right now, I think they're a good team. Maybe I underestimated them a little bit, finishing fourth in that division. I believe I had them more fifth. Very low, I'll say. But still not huge in them just because of that rotation. Again, a lot in the other pieces of this team. Bullpen, hitting core. I think their manager's nice as well. But I think they need to add a lot to that pitching core if they're going to be competitive whatsoever. After that, we had the Yankees. I mean, what a surprise this was. The Yankees sweeping the Astros in their home ballpark after the Astros have just owned them these past few years. I think it's a very good sign for the Yankees, of course, and I think it's kind of signaling a new day in the Bronx. They have a new shiny toy to play with in Juan Soto, and boy, was he good. Walking all over the place, hitting RBI singles, making great plays in the outfield. And I think it's just showing what happens when you go all in. You're the Yankees. You have to go all in. Every season that the New York Yankees don't win a World Series is a failure. It simply is because of who they are, because of their history, and because of who that franchise is. Being in the New York market, I know what this fan base is, and I know what they want. So I think the years they haven't won a World Series, they haven't even made the playoffs. Even if they made the playoffs, they probably would have gotten swept by the Astros in the DS or CS. So I think starting the season off like this is a huge improvement. Soto was so good, and oh man, he's going to be a treat to watch on the big stage. Say what you want about DC and San Diego, they're not that big. They're not those big stages. Being in the Bronx is. I think a guy like Soto, who lives for these kind of moments and is so good at this young of age, is going to love playing in this huge market. That's why I picked him for MVP, and I'm still standing by that. So he was great, and after that, Verdugo was great. Verdugo made so many nice plays in the outfield, and the fact, he was a big question mark coming into the year, because of his history with the Yankees fan base, his history with the Red Sox, being late to meetings, kind of being forced out of there because of that. So I think him getting off to a great start with the Yankees is something that's a huge positive for them. So yeah, just really excited to see where the Yankees go. They have a big test going to Arizona for the next 3 games. The NL champions, a great team, of course. They just added their former friend in Montgomery. Obviously, he won't be playing because he's rehabbing from not playing in spring training, but still a great team there. And another thing that I'm positive with the Astros is they didn't really have that amazing pitching performance. Nestor Cortez struggled, and after that, they, other than the second game where they only gave up 1 run, you're giving up 3 runs after that, and 4 after that. So again, when the pitching did struggle in 1 game, which is what I want to say, so that was not great. But even after that, you still found a way to win with your offense, which is something you need to do while Cole is out. And after that, your pitching was still good in these last 2 games. Your pitching was good without Cole. And that's a huge positive for the Yankees right now. And that's a huge positive where you want to go. You're not going to have Cole for a long time. That's the reality of the situation. So what needs to happen is your younger pitchers need to step up. The pitchers you have in your rotation, they need to step up. And also, you have to out-hit people. And I think having a 2-3 or 3-4 in that lineup of Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, you're able to do that. Yes, you're missing some pieces like TJ Mayhew currently, but you still have a great team and a great lineup. And right now, I think with Cole being out, these are the kind of games you have to play. Either your pitching has to surprise everyone, your bullpen has to hold it, or if the pitching performs like most people expect it to, which is not great, you have to out-hit people. And adding Soto was one of the big reasons for that. So I look at the series as a huge positive for the Yankees, and if I was a Yankees fan, I'd be very, very excited for what the season has forward. And maybe finally, this is your year to get Judge that ring he's been looking for. After that, we have Milwaukee. Milwaukee surprised everyone, sweeping the Mets. And as a Mets fan, I watched all 3 games. Obviously, I got to hand it to them. They played really, really well. And they played really well in what I said before was the fundamentals. They ran the bases very well. They played defense great. They had scrappy hits. They just played the game in a very nice way, in a game that in a part of the game we don't see a lot today. Now, we don't see that part a lot because it's more efficient to just hit home runs all the time. So I'm not trying to say this is the new wave in baseball, but I think when you're the Brewers, a team that is really young, trying to find their way, trying to surpass expectations people have upon you because of the moves you made this offseason, because of the injuries, I think these are the types of things you had to do. Your infield defense is incredible. I mean, you got Bryce Terang over there, you got Willie Adames, Joey Ortiz. So I think that's another thing you have to watch, just how great that infield defense is. And if you hit the ball on the ground, I guarantee you it's going to be an out in that infield. So that was something that was really impressive. And Rhys Hoskins, I mean, as a Mets fan, I simply have to respect this guy for what he did. He, talked the talk and he walked the walk. He had 2 homers this series. He played great. They threw at him because they were so mad. I don't really know if that was intentional, but it would surprise me if it wasn't. I know Yohan Ramirez kept saying it wasn't intentional for him throwing, but I don't know about that one. But yeah, I mean, he walked the walk and he talked the talk. Hoskins is going to be such a big player for the Brewers this year. Something the Brewers have been missing all these years is another bat in the middle of the order to complement Yelich. Yelich has been great, but I think you need another guy, and I think Hoskins can be that guy. And if he keeps performing like this, he's going to be a great player for this team. And if you struggle, you can trade him at the deadline for a whole bunch. So I think Hoskins performing this well is a great sign for the Brewers and a great sign for what they're trying to do this year. So yeah, I'd be very excited for how this opening season started with the Brewers. And yeah, overall, just happy with what happened and looking forward to watching this team next. Finally, we have the Tigers. Now, the Tigers are a very good team. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but they swept the White Sox. The White Sox are just I think a big test for these 2 teams I talked about now is the Tigers and the Mets. The Mets got swept. The Tigers swept a team. So both the teams will be playing each other in a series now in Citi Field, and we'll be seeing what happens. I'll be keeping a close eye on that. We talk about it tomorrow, obviously, the first game. So yeah, definitely watching these 2 teams, seeing how either the Tigers will keep this going or how the Mets can rebound. The Mets cannot start the season 0-4. Let me tell you that. They just cannot. So I'm an eye on the mound today for them, and he was a big signing for them, and I was a big fan of it. So hopeful to watch what happens there and see what happens with him. So yeah, but we'll see how the Tigers can do, and we'll see how the Mets can do. Both these teams are going to play each other. So yeah, overall, just going to watch that and see what does happen in the series and see how teams do perform. So yeah. Overall, the Pirates, Yankees, Brewers, and Tigers, am I a little bit higher on them than before? Sure, they swept teams going off from the start. I mean, that's nothing to scoff at. Especially the Yankees. I want to make it clear that I am high on the Yankees right now. They performed very, very well in the start of the season. And I'll be watching the Astros now, seeing if they can bounce back. So, yeah, Pirates, still have question marks about. Same with the Brewers, same with the Tigers, but Brewers did impress me, I will say. Played great defense, but they still have a lot of injuries. Their offense is still not great. But, hey, they beat my team, so I'm not going to say much about them right now. But overall, it was a great opening weekend for baseball, and it was really exciting to watch and talk about now. So, yeah, very excited to talk more about this. And believe me, we'll talk more about the games as the season goes on, of course. So, there we go. All right, that was my second segment here, talking about teams that got swept. Teams that did the sweeping, I should say. We'll be going to our third segment here, which we'll be talking about Roki Sasaki, him being scouted by MLB teams already, and the rumors about him. I really want to talk about this. So, yeah, we'll be going to that, and we'll see you after the break. So, thanks, and bye.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our third segment, which is going to be talking about something a little different than I usually talk about, which is international baseball, I will say. It's kind of in that range. It is talking about an international player, and that is, of course, the phenom Roki Sasaki. Now, if you don't know who Roki Sasaki is, well, he's one of the better Japanese pitchers in the MPB, and he's 22. So if you thought Yamamoto was good, you are in for an awakening with Roki. So there were a report that came out that 8 teams scouted Sasaki at his recent game in the NPB. Those teams, we know 4 of those teams, which are the Mets, the Cardinals, the Dodgers, and the Yankees. Not surprising. All these teams were involved on Yamamoto. So it's not like this is a new occurrence for them to go scouting these Japanese phenoms. So yeah, definitely teams to watch in Sasaki as he does get posted. But yeah, let's talk about, first of all, how good is Roki Sasaki? Now, we just saw Yamamoto get $300 million after not even pitching a game in the MLB. So you're thinking, okay, well, that's not going to happen again. There can't be a guy better than this. Well, let me introduce you to Roki Sasaki. Now, a lot of you are familiar with him, but if you are not, this is a 22-year-old ace, 22, not turned 23 till November, so he just turned 22, and over the last 4 years, he's had a 1.78 ERA, a 2.02 ERA, a 2.27 ERA, and a 1.84 ERA. That's pretty good, if we're being completely honest here. He's never had a WHIP above 1. Strikeouts for 9 last year were 13.5. Before that was 12.0. So yeah, he's pretty great. I don't think there's any real conversation about that, and that's how good he is. So first thing we have to look at is, when will he get posted? Well, he can't really be posted until he's 25 like all MPB players, but he's so good that there are some rumors that he will be posted next year and that the team will pay a huge fee to the NPB team that he is on currently to pay for it. Now, we heard this offseason that he wanted to get posted after seeing how much Yamamoto got, but the team wouldn't let him and made him stay for a year. So I do think he'll be posted next year, and I think it's going to be a huge thing. So I'm not exactly sure on how the money part of it works. Usually he would, if he waited until he was a free agent, teams would have been able to bid on him like Yamamoto, and where Yamamoto got $325. But because he wants to get posted early, I'm not exactly sure if it will be international money, like international pool money, like you would see for prospects coming out of the DR or Cuba or stuff like that, where you have the international signing day period. He would just be the number one guy there, and you'd have international slot money. Or if you would bid on him like a regular free agent, because there could be some things working in with the contract that are some things to look at. So I think these are things that we have to watch out for and just see as the process goes on. But first of all, let's talk about the teams that scouted him and what is the potential for him to go there. First of all, we have the Mets. Now, the Mets, I think, are pretty easy here. They were involved heavily in Yamamoto and almost signed him, offering him the most amount of money, tying with the Dodgers, of course, who tied with the Mets contract in $325 million and ultimately ended up getting him. So they obviously love international stars. Also, that they are a big market team. Sasaki would be going to the biggest market in the world in New York. So I think that's an incentive for him. If he is a free agent, I don't know if there's any team that outbid the Mets. I think Mets, Dodgers are really the teams that go above and beyond. And Dodgers right now, I mean, how can they afford other people? Like, come on. Really? I mean, I said this and then they signed Yamamoto, so I'm done with the Dodgers trying to figure out what their budget situation is. But I think the Mets are a good fit here, and they were one of the teams that scouted him. Again, big on Yamamoto. They know what they're doing with international stars, so that's a team to watch here, definitely. After that, we have the Dodgers, who, I mean, what is there to say about them? They've signed so many international players already from Japan, Yamamoto, Ohtani. They've had a history of it as well, of international players with Hideo Nomo. They also had Fernando Valenzuela, who, of course, was not Japanese, but was a big international star. So the Dodgers know how to do that. They have a very diverse fan base who would definitely accept Sasaki as being an MLB guy. He'd have friends already that he can communicate with Ohtani, with Yamamoto. So Dodgers, of course, are a big fit. They're a big fit with any Japanese star nowadays because of the connection they've had over there, with them having the greatest Japanese player to walk the earth in Ohtani, one of the better of all time in Yamamoto, who did great in his own debut, by the way. Excited for that. So, yeah. So the Dodgers, of course, are a big fit here. Then you have the Yankees. I mean, if it's the Yankees, they're always going to be involved in these people. Again, they were also very involved in Yamamoto. Sasaki, there's been rumors that he wants to play on a big stage. Again, there's no bigger stage than the Yankees in New York as well. So I think that's another thing there. They again know how to treat Japanese stars. They were very involved in Yamamoto. They're very in touch with the Japanese market. So I think that is another thing to watch out for if you are a Yankees fan and seeing Sasaki. So again, I think it all really has to come down to the international money or free agency money. I think it's going to be international slot money, so money kind of becomes irrelevant here. It's really whatever organization he wants to think about best. But if free agency money, if he is just a flat free agent, just a guy on the free agent market, I just don't know how the Yankees will be able to afford him without letting Soto walk, which I think they don't want to do. Kind of the same with the Dodgers with how many players they already have. So again, it's just a really interesting situation that I want to watch, and overall just see what happens and see how it does play out with the season. After that, we of course have the Cardinals, who I think are another fit here, even though they're not really in the big market as the Dodgers, as the Mets, as the Yankees, but they have connections to Japan. They have Lars Nootbaar, who's become a folk here in Japan. He's very close with a lot of players on Team Japan, including Yamamoto, who he said before is his best friend. So it's kind of surprising they didn't make more of a big move at Yamamoto in the free agency class, but I'm sure he's good friends with Sasaki. I'm sure he knows him at least, and I think that plays the Cardinals' advantage. They, of course, need pitching. I mean, we're not saying anything new here. I've talked to all this time about how much I hate the pitchers they have and how much I think they screwed up this offseason. So I think adding a demon like Sasaki, I don't use that word a lot, but a demon like Sasaki I think would be a great fit for the Cardinals. So I think team fit, it makes sense. Organizational-wise, it makes sense. Going to a historic franchise like the Cardinals, who's had great pitchers in the past, like Adam Wainwright, like Bob Feller, so Dizzy Dean. So I think that could be very attractive to Sasaki. So I think the Cardinals are a team here. Again, they're not really in the same boat as the Dodgers, Yankees, or Mets because of the big market teams, because of the money to spend. But I still think they're going to be a part of every Japanese player conversation as long as they have Lars Nootbaar and that fan base of him. I mean, he grew so much over the WBC with Japan. So I think that's something you have to watch out for. But there's already rumors that Sasaki's already decided that he's going to the Dodgers next offseason, which Bob Nightingale mentioned. He said that everyone in baseball believes Sasaki's already made up his mind and will be going to the Dodgers. Now, would that surprise me? To be perfectly honest with you, no. I think with how many Japanese and international stars the Dodgers have had over the past few years, it would not surprise me at all to see Sasaki go there. It would not surprise me to think that they would already have a deal planned out with him. I mean, they signed Ohtani, they signed Yamamoto. What's another Japanese superstar to be in there, huh? Now, I think it's a little less likely if he were to be a flat free agent and not just be an international guy with international slot money, because they wouldn't have to outbid teams like the Mets, like the Yankees, with all this money on their payroll. So I'm really interested, honestly, to see where Sasaki goes, and just seeing what could happen with him and just overall his entire situation in MLB. I think it's something that's going to be really interesting to me and something that I'm really going to be watching over the few weeks or so. Not few weeks, I should say, over the year or so, and just seeing what does happen with him. Maybe he won't get posted at all, but remember, these are only 4 of the 8 teams we know of being at his start. So I think there's a lot more teams to watch out for in this, and I think that it's going to be very, very interesting to see what does end up happening with him, and very interesting to see what team does end up getting him. Again, only 4 out of the 8 were mentioned. I think other teams that make a lot of sense here are the Cubs. I think they've shown a lot of interest in international players. Diamondbacks as well. Padres, of course. I mean, AJ Preller just mentioned Sasaki in a press conference by name, which is really strange. I don't know what was up with that. I don't really know we have any more updates on that, but that was something strange. So there's going to be a lot of teams involved with Sasaki, and I think this is a growing story over the next few years, and something that is going to be very interesting to watch and see as the season does go on, and as Sasaki's season does go on, and as more people hear about him and know about him. So yeah, very interested to see where this does end up going. And yeah, just a really interesting story to talk about here, and something that I'm going to be very interested in hearing about and talking about. So yeah, not much else to say there. And I think, again, this is a really interesting story, a really fun story with all these Japanese players coming to the MLB. Again, we have Muneta Murakami. I apologize again if I pronounced that name wrong, but he is a third baseman, big lefty power bat, a guy who's very, very good and is going to be in MLB the next few years. We've already seen Japanese players coming over a lot over these past few years, of course, with Yamamoto, but we had Senga as well. And going international as well, we've had Jung-Hoo Lee come over. So I think baseball is growing in a great way. I think it's very exciting if you're a fan. And overall, just an exciting time for Japanese baseball and baseball in general. So yeah, just really exciting times here. And Sasaki's going to be a real fun story to follow and see how his season does develop over time. So yeah, just excited to watch him and excited to see what team he does end up playing with next year. Maybe it's in the MPB, maybe it's in MLB, who knows. But if there's any more updates on Sasaki, we'll let you know. All right, so that was the third segment here. We're going to be going to our fourth segment, which is going to be talking about some general news stories around the league. There was a lot of news stories over the weekend, so I'm excited to touch upon those and talk about it. And yeah, we go into our fourth segment, and we'll see you guys after that. So thanks, and bye.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our fourth and final segment, which is going to be talking about some general news stories around the league that I did want to touch upon. These are stories that maybe didn't deserve a whole segment, or I couldn't talk about for a whole segment, but I think are really fun and interesting to talk about. So we'll be doing that here. First one we'll be talking about is the Arizona Diamondbacks. We've talked about them a lot lately, with them being the NL champions and them signing Jordan Montgomery. But we have more stories for them in the news lately now. They apparently, according to reports by Bob Nightingale, are ready to deal with the deadline. They are very open to adding a big star or a big name or just big pieces in general. And the owner also came out saying that they are open to adding salary at all costs, and they think this is the year and this is the time to keep going for the Diamondbacks. So yeah, I think that's a big story here, and something that I think is very wise of them. I think this year, the next 3 years are really going to be the prime of the Diamondbacks. They're a very young team, but young teams don't last forever. So I think when you have a franchise star like Corbin Carroll, other great young players as well, like Gabby Moreno, like Zach Gallen, I think that you have to know when your time is, and this is their time now. And I'm glad they're open to dealing, and I'm glad that they are open to getting more big pieces on their team. I don't really see that many huge holes for them. I mean, catcher is pretty much set. The infield's pretty much set. They could potentially upgrade a shortstop if Jordan Lawler isn't ready. But I still think the team is very good. I think the outfield's great. I think DH is pretty good with Jock Peterson being there. But I think one potential addition could be the bullpen. I just don't think that their bullpen is amazing, and I think they could use more additions. They did add Paul Sewald, yes, but I don't really know if he's so much of a difference maker. I think one thing to look at is maybe Devin Williams. Devin Williams obviously is hurt for the first 3 months, but I don't know if the Brewers are going to be that good. And even if they are that good, they've shown a history of trading closers at the deadline because they just simply don't value relievers that much. So I think adding to the bullpen could be a potential thing for the Diamondbacks and what could happen with their year. So It's good for them that they are ready to deal with the deadline. It's good for them that they are ready to add salary. I think we know that as to be true with the Montgomery signing. So if I'm a Diamondbacks fan, I'd be very excited right now, and I'd be very just overall happy with the direction the team's going and what's happening with them. So yeah, just Diamondbacks news and ready to watch them at the deadline. The Yankees made a trade yesterday for White Sox reliever Jake Cousins. I think this is a good move personally. I think he was a good reliever with the Brewers. I think he has great stuff. I think he's good fastball, good slider, and he's going to be in the minor leagues for the Yankees. It's just some overall nice depth for them in that bullpen. The Yankees have been very good over the past few years of accumulating depth, getting great guys just on that team, in that organization that can perform really well. So yeah, I'd be really excited if I was a Yankees fan. Not like this trade isn't that huge. Obviously, it's a minor trade. They got him for cash considerations or a player to be named later, but it's really nice depth for the Yankees, in my opinion. And I just think it's a sign of a good organization when you get this much depth. And I think a lot of teams want to emulate teams like this, teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers who are good at this, and just organizations you want to watch out for in the coming years. So yeah, I think it was a good move by the Yankees to get more depth, especially in pitching. You can never have enough pitching depth, so a nice move by them there. After that, we have Tyler McGill. He was placed on the injured list by the Mets with a shoulder injury. He felt some soreness after his start versus the Brewers yesterday, and he's now being placed on the IL. Got an MRI. Obviously did not turn out great. Only 15 days, and he should be back at the end of that right away. He said he doesn't really feel pain at all. It's just kind of something you're doing at the start of the season to make sure it doesn't get worse. Precautionary is the right word, I should have said. So yeah, not a huge deal for the Mets. As I said before, again, I'm just not that high on him as a Mets fan. He really hasn't improved in these years of being an MLB player. He still has a lot of issues to work out. The pitch count is one of them. He has not done well with the pitch count of the past few years. He throws too many pitches over the innings and just not have that out pitch, in my opinion. So not a huge deal. I think the Mets have a lot of great young pitching that could come up and fill the spot. One guy I really want to see get a chance is Jose Butto. I think he has some good pitches in the repertoire. I think he has some good potential overall, and Butto is a guy I really want to see get a chance, and I think could be a really good player. So yeah, not a huge deal for Miguel to be on the IL, but they've lost a lot of pitching depth over the past few days, over the past few weeks, especially with Senga. So it'll be interesting to see what the counter is. The reports are that they're interested in Julio Teheran, who just got released from a Orioles contract. So that could be a nice add to the pitching depth. Had an okay season with the Brewers last year, kind of in a career renaissance. So if that does happen, I will let you know. And I think Teheran could be a good fit for the Mets. Top prospect, Junior Camareno for the Rays, has a quad injury and will be out for a little bit. A tough break for the Rays, really. This is a guy I think was really looking forward to being a big part of the Rays season. Came up last year, but starting the season in the minor leagues. Either they want to tamper with his playing time to get more years on that contract, or they just don't think he's ready. But overall, it is a tough break seeing him have a quad injury and seeing him be out for a good part of the season now. So I think they were relying on him to be a big part of that infield as the season went on in second base or third base. And we don't know how long he's going to be out, but it did not look good. I would probably say a few weeks to maybe a month or so. So after that, you then have to rehab, get back in minor leagues. So not a great deal for the Rays here, but they have the depth to counteract it. So it's not a huge thing. But again, a tough break in my opinion. A guy I was really looking forward to watching, and a guy I think is going to be really good as the year goes on. So not a great sign for the Rays right now. After that, we have Joey Bart for the Giants, a former second overall pick, being DFA'd by them. Just really never worked out. With the Giants. Was not that good ever. Did not hit. Did not play great defense. Being the second overall pick, that's kind of what you need to do. Was being heralded as the replacement for Buster Posey when he would retire. Obviously, he's now retired, and they moved on. So just did not work out. I still think could be a good buy low candidate for a rebuilding team. I think maybe a team like the A's or the Nationals could be looking at Bart as a player to look out for, as a player to watch and see if they want to add him. The problem with those two specific teams I mentioned is that they kind of have catching depth even for bad teams. So I think other bad teams to watch out for are the White Sox. I think only having Corey Lee there and Martin Maldonado, I would look out for them to maybe sign Joey Bart. I also think the Marlins could be a team. They were mentioned with him in rumors in the past, so I think they could be a team there. The Cubs were also mentioned as a team in the past, but they're kind of competing, so I'm not sure how that could work. But I do think the Marlins are a strong fit here, and I think that Bart will land on his feet. A player with this much potential because he was second overall pick a long time ago. I think that a lot of teams are not going to be lining up really, but I think they are going to be looking at his services and seeing if he could be a potential player for their team in the future. News that just happened right now, not really breaking news, but Johan Ramirez got a 2-game suspension for throwing at Rhys Hoskins. He keeps saying that he didn't mean to, but I don't really know about that one. So he originally got 3, and he appealed, pitched yesterday, now getting a 2-game suspension. That's usually what happens. They usually just get it down by a game. So Mets will be out of relief arm for 2 games. Great. What a great start to the season. So, yeah, it's not a huge deal. He's not an amazing player, but at the same time, it is more depth the Mets are losing, and we talked about already how detrimental that could be. So, yeah, we'll be updating you on the Mets pitching situation, and if more does happen with this. The Twins signed relief pitcher Diego Castillo to a minor league deal. I honestly really like this move for the Twins. Diego Castillo was a main part of the Rays and Mariners bullpens over the past few years, but had some injuries and just did not work out, so has been a free agent for a little while now. I think going to the Twins makes a lot of sense. They lost a lot of bullpen depth in the past few weeks or so with injuries to guys like Justin Topa, Caleb Diobar, Johan Duran. So I think buying low on a guy who used to be really good in Diego Castillo makes a lot of sense, and overall I think it's a great signing by them and will be a valuable piece of depth going into the season for them. After that, we have the Rays. They signed Dominic Smith to a minor league contract. I think if any team get the big potential to have Dominic Smith, it is the Rays, as they've done so many players over the years. Dom, I think, has so much potential. Is a guy who still has a lot left in the tank. Was an MVP candidate in 2020 for crying out loud. Was a former top prospect with the Mets. Just had injuries, could never really put it together, even when given a full season to be a starting player. So I think it's a good signing by the Rays and a good signing by Dom to go to an organization like the Rays who can develop players like that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch Dom Smith and how he does develop over the next few years and just what his career ends up looking like and what happens this year going to the Rays. So yeah, someone interesting to watch and an interesting story I think that is here right now. So yeah. Next, we have Justin Steele. After having a hamstring injury going over that foul ball in opening day, he will be out until at least May. Not a great break for the Cubs. Having your ace pitcher out until May is just not good. I mean, that's obvious, I think. You're going to have to look at your other pitchers now to step up, like Shota Imanaga. You called up Ben Brown, who is going to be a big part of your rotation. So we have to look at these kind of guys to step up and fill in that place. Jameson Taillon as well, who has not had a great start to his Cubs career. So you have to look at your other pitchers now to step up while Steele is out. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch and seeing if these guys can step up, fill in the place for your ace. So the Cubs are going to be an interesting team to follow over the season and as Steele is out. So yeah, a team to definitely see here and definitely just watch how their season does unfold. After that, we had Royce Lewis going to the IL for the Twins. Not a surprise here, really. Was very electric in his opening day debut, and as he said, was too electric for his own good, it seems like. Had a hammy injury going over to third base running, so not great. He'll be out at least for a month, they think. Not really sure the entire timeline, but yeah, not great. Another top Twins prospect who has been injury prone, the same as Byron Buxton. So I think Royce Lewis is going to be a very big guy for the Twins' future. But like Buxton, has to stay healthy. I think he has so many tools, and just staying healthy, being durable is going to be the big thing for him. And we'll see how his career ends up going and just overall what is going to happen with him. So yeah, someone to follow, and it is unfortunate that he had to see the IL. Recapping some of the games that are going on right now as I stream, the Braves are blowing out the White Sox 6-0 in the top of the 8th. No real surprise there. The White Sox are not a good team. The Braves are one of the best in the league. Not really anything to talk about there. The Cubs are winning 3-0 on the Rockies. They had a 3-run inning in the 7th now, which is the inning that is currently on. You had Nico Horner and Mike Tauchman singling. Yan Gomes getting an RBI getting Nico Horner thrown at home, not getting an RBI. Seiya Suzuki just walked to make the bases loaded. So, yeah, we'll be watching how this inning unfolds, and they have bases loaded currently. So Chris Morel got an RBI single before, not in this inning. Sorry for getting that wrong, but yeah, still a nice job by the Cubs to play here well and try to rebound after only winning 1 of 3 in Texas. The Pirates are beating the Nationals 1-0 in the top of the second right now. Pirates are trying to keep up with that undefeated record. Michael A. Taylor hit a sacrifice fly, scoring Henry Davis to make it 1-0. So, yeah, those are the games on right now, and we'll be having a lot more games on today. We'll be covering them tomorrow and talking about them. So, yeah, we'll be recapping those, but that's it for today, and those are the games on. So, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to follow us anywhere you can get content and updates. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all that. Again, thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit that subscribe button, hit the post notification to get all notifications when not only I upload, but all the other great young content creators on this channel. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you with Baseball Threads tomorrow. Bye, guys. Thanks.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.